The transport ship broke through the thick clouds, shaking as the blue planet appeared below. The alien students pressed their faces against the glass windows. They had seen many worlds during their studies, but none looked like this. Earth looked alive in a way that was almost frightening. Green forests stretched for miles. Oceans moved like restless giants and storms flashed with violent light. To them, the planet was not welcoming. It was warning them. Kara, a young alien with silver eyes, whispered nervously to her classmates. "It looks so wild. How can humans live here?" Another student, Lear, adjusted his translator and answered in a shaky voice. "The teachers called it the galaxy's Deathworld. Maybe this is why." The ship landed with a heavy thud on a platform near a human city. The doors opened and heat rushed in like a living thing. The air was thick with strange scents: smoke, flowers, dust, and something burning far away. The students coughed and covered their noses, but the human guide who waited outside smiled as if nothing was wrong. He was tall, with calm brown eyes, and carried no weapon. "Welcome to Earth," he said simply. "If you survive the first week, you will enjoy your stay." The aliens froze. He said it with humor, but his eyes did not laugh. The students followed him, their steps careful. They had visited planets with toxic gas, burning suns, and endless deserts, but Earth felt different. It was not empty. It was full. Everywhere they looked, something moved. Birds flew overhead, insects buzzed around their arms, and even the ground seemed alive with crawling shapes. One student, a timid alien named Reki, bent down to look closer at the dirt. His eyes widened. "There are thousands of tiny creatures here. Ants," the guide said. "One of Earth's smallest life forms. They look harmless, but together they fight wars larger than kingdoms." As if on command, the ants swarmed in front of the students, clashing with another colony. The tiny bodies moved like rivers of soldiers, biting, stinging, and dying without fear. The aliens stepped back in horror. Kara whispered, "If this is the small life, what does the big life look like?" The guide gave no answer. Instead, he led them into the city. Humans walked past them, laughing, talking, carrying food. No one looked afraid, though the world around them was chaos. The aliens noticed scars on some of their arms and faces, as if danger was a normal part of their lives. As they walked, a sudden sound split the air. A loud bark echoed, and a large four-legged animal charged toward them. The students screamed, covering their heads. The creature's teeth were sharp, its eyes wild. But the human guide simply snapped his fingers. "Sit." The animal stopped and sat down, wagging its tail happily. The aliens looked confused. "That was a dog," the guide explained. "They hunt, fight, and protect. We call them friends." Reki's skin turned pale. "You call that a friend?" The guide only smiled. Here, danger and friendship often look the same. The group continued to the university where their lessons would begin. The buildings looked small compared to alien towers, but inside they found strange things. Walls covered with pictures of storms, volcanoes, wild animals, and human explorers. Each picture told a story of survival. The students sat down in the first classroom. The human professor entered. He was older, with white hair and sharp eyes. He greeted them warmly but wasted no time. "Earth is not like the other worlds you know," he began. "Here everything wants to grow, to fight, to survive. From the smallest insect to the strongest beast, every life form is a fighter. This is the world that created humans." The aliens exchanged uneasy glances. Their own planets were calm, controlled, safe. Here every second seemed to be a test. The professor tapped the screen, showing an image of a lion attacking its prey. Then he showed a snake swallowing a bird whole. Then he showed a human walking calmly between both. "Other species fear this world," the professor said, "but humans were born here. They did not run. They adapted. They learned to hunt the hunters." The students leaned forward, silent. The professor's eyes glowed with quiet pride. "That is why they call Earth the galaxy's Deathworld. It is a planet that kills the weak. But it made us strong." The room fell silent. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky and rain began to fall. The students had never seen rain before. Water poured from the sky in endless streams, soaking the ground. But the humans walked under it without panic. Some even laughed and raised their arms to feel the drops. To the aliens, it was madness. To humans, it was life. Kara whispered, "If the planet itself is like this, what are the people truly like?" The professor looked at the students as if reading her mind. His voice dropped low. "You will learn soon enough. And when you do, you will never see the galaxy the same way again. The storm outside raged harder, lightning tearing across the sky. The aliens shivered in their seats, realizing that their journey had just begun. The alien students thought the first day on Earth was strange enough. But the second day changed everything. Their human guide, the same calm man with brown eyes, announced in the morning, "Today we go outside the city. You must see what Earth really is." The aliens hesitated. Inside the city, they already felt unsafe. Outside the city? It sounded like madness. Still, they followed. The transport vehicle rattled across rough ground. Out the windows, the aliens saw endless green forests, rivers that moved like silver snakes, and mountains that pierced the sky. On their own worlds, nature was controlled. Quiet gardens, tamed animals, and weather balanced by machines. But here, nature was not tamed. "It ruled. Why does it look so wild?" Lear whispered, pressing his face against the glass. The guide answered calmly, "Because it is. Earth does not wait for anyone. Here, life is a constant battle." The vehicle stopped. The students stepped out, and hot air wrapped around them like a heavy blanket. The forest in front of them pulsed with noise. Birds screamed from high branches. Insects buzzed in clouds, and somewhere deep inside the jungle, something roared. Recky's hands shook. "Are we safe here?" The guide only smiled. "No place on Earth is truly safe. That's the lesson." They followed a narrow path into the forest. The ground was damp, and strange plants brushed against their arms. Some had sharp thorns, others dripped with sticky liquid. One alien brushed a leaf and cried out as red blisters formed on his skin. The guide bent down and examined it. "Poison ivy," he said. "A simple plant, but it burns the skin. On Earth, even plants can fight back." The students stared in disbelief. Their own planets had soft grass and harmless trees. Here, even the leaves were soldiers. Suddenly, a shadow crossed the path. A snake, long and shining green, slithered across the trail, its tongue flicking. The aliens froze, their eyes wide. The guide spoke softly. "That is a viper. One bite and your heart stops beating. Humans learned long ago to watch where they step." The snake vanished into the grass, but the fear it left behind did not. The students moved carefully now, every step heavy with caution. Not long after, they reached a clearing. At its center was a large hole in the ground. Ants moved in endless lines, carrying leaves and crawling over each other. The aliens leaned closer, fascinated until the ground itself seemed to ripple. Thousands of ants swarmed, fighting another colony. "They are at war," the guide explained. "Millions of soldiers, no mercy, no surrender. Entire colonies rise and fall in a single day." The aliens stepped back, horrified. For them, war was something rare, something their governments avoided. But here even insects fought endless battles. Kara whispered, "If insects live like this, how do humans survive at all?" The guide's voice grew serious. "By becoming stronger, by learning to fight harder than anything else." They continued deeper into the forest. The noise grew louder. The cries of unseen birds, the hiss of insects, the rustle of predators moving in the shadows. Suddenly, the guide raised his hand. "Stop!" From the trees, a great shape stepped out. Golden fur glistened in the sun. Its eyes were sharp and its teeth flashed as it growled. "A lion," the guide said quietly. The aliens could not move. The lion's muscles rippled with power. It was faster, stronger, and deadlier than anything they had ever seen. The students trembled, certain this was the end. But the guide stood firm. He did not flinch. The lion stared at him for a moment, then turned away and walked back into the trees. The aliens gasped for air. Kara clutched her chest. That could have killed us in seconds." The guide nodded. "Yes, and that is only one of Earth's predators. There are bears, crocodiles, wolves, sharks. The list goes on. This world never forgives weakness." The aliens were silent. Their home planets felt like children's playgrounds compared to this. Later, they sat on a fallen log to rest. The guide looked at them, his eyes steady. "Now let me ask you, what do you think is Earth's most dangerous creature?" The students looked at each other. Lear whispered, "The lion?"
"Maybe the crocodile," Reki added. The guide shook his head slowly.
"No, not the snake, not the lion, not the storm, not the poison. The deadliest creature on Earth is the one standing in front of you right now." The aliens froze. His words cut through the thick air like a blade. "You mean you?" Kara asked, her voice trembling. "Yes," the guide said. His calm smile returned, but his eyes were dark and serious. "Humans are Earth's most dangerous animal. We are not the strongest, Not the fastest, not the biggest, but we are the ones who learned how to defeat them all. We are the hunters of hunters. The aliens shivered. The forest around them seemed to grow darker, as if it agreed with his words. For the first time, they realized the truth. The galaxy had called Earth the Deathworld for centuries, but it was not the storms or the poison or the predators that made it so feared. It was the humans, and now they were sitting face to face with them. The next morning, the alien students gathered in the lecture hall of the human university. They were still shaken from their trip into the forest. Many had not slept, their dreams filled with lions, snakes, and endless armies of ants. They whispered to each other, wondering what lesson could come next. The door opened, and the same old professor entered. His sharp eyes scanned the students as if he already knew their thoughts. He tapped the desk once, and the room fell silent. "Yesterday," he began, "you saw Earth's dangers. Today, you will learn about the creatures who grew up here. Today you will study the human body." The aliens leaned forward nervously. They had studied many species before. Giant beasts, winged predators, armored reptiles. But never had they been asked to study their hosts this closely. The professor pressed a button and a glowing image appeared on the wall. It was a human skeleton, the aliens murmured in surprise. "Look carefully," the professor said. "We are not the largest. We are not the strongest. We have no claws, no fangs, no natural armor. And yet," he smiled faintly, "we are still the deadliest." He changed the image to show muscles stretching over the skeleton. "The human body is built for endurance. We cannot outrun a cheetah in a short race. We cannot outjump a kangaroo. But while other creatures run fast for minutes, we can run for hours, sometimes for days." The aliens blinked in disbelief. "For days?" Kara whispered. "Yes," the professor said. "We call it persistence hunting. Our ancestors chased prey across the burning lands. The animals ran faster, but they grew tired. Humans never stopped. In the end, the prey collapsed and the hunter stood victorious." Lear's silver skin paled. "That means you win not by speed but by never giving up." "Exactly," the professor said. His voice grew colder. "That is the secret of the human body. It does not surrender." The next image showed a man with a broken arm, smiling as a healer wrapped it. The professor continued. "When bones break, they heal. When flesh tears, it closes. When we bleed, our bodies fight to keep us alive. Even sickness cannot stop us easily. Our bodies adapt, repair, and continue moving." Reki raised a trembling hand. "But surely disease kills many of you?" The professor nodded. "Yes, but it also makes us stronger. Every sickness teaches the body to resist the next one. We are shaped by survival. Where others would fall, we stand again." The aliens shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Their own species healed slowly and needed machines to survive harsh wounds. The idea that humans could survive with nothing but their bodies seemed impossible. The professor stepped away from the screen and looked at them directly. "Do you know why humans can live in deserts, in frozen tundras, on mountains, and deep inside jungles?" No one answered. "Because our bodies adapt. Heat, cold, hunger, pain, none of these defeat us. We learn to sweat when it is hot, to shiver when it is cold, to store fat when food is scarce. No other species in the galaxy can do this as well as we can." The students sat in silence, their minds racing. Kara leaned toward Lear and whispered, "They sound less like creatures, and more like weapons." The professor's eyes caught hers. He smiled as though he had heard the whisper. "You are beginning to understand," he said softly. He clicked again, and a new image appeared. This time it was not just muscles and bones. It was a human running across a battlefield, arrows piercing his armor, blood soaking his shirt, but still he moved forward. "This is what you must remember," the professor said. His voice was no longer calm, it carried weight like thunder. "Our bodies are not strong because they cannot be broken. They are strong because breaking them does not end us." The students swallowed hard. They had come to study science, but it felt like they were learning about monsters. Suddenly, the professor turned off the screen. The room fell into darkness. Only his voice remained. "But there is something more dangerous than our bodies," he said slowly. "Something even more powerful than our bones and our blood." The students froze. They could hear their own hearts beating in the silence. The lights flickered back on. The professor stood at the front of the room, his eyes hard as stone. "The human mind," he said. The words sent a chill across the room. The aliens felt as if the walls themselves had closed in around them. The professor leaned forward, his face half in shadow. "If you think our bodies are terrifying, Wait until you see what we do with our minds." The room was silent. Outside, the wind howled through the trees, carrying the sound of Earth's endless struggle. The students did not move, each of them trapped between fear and fascination. The lesson was over, but none of them could leave. Because deep down they knew the professor was right. The body of a human was dangerous enough, but what came next would change everything. The classroom was quiet. The alien students sat frozen after hearing the professor's last words. The human body had already shocked them with its power to endure, heal, and adapt. But now the old man claimed there was something even more dangerous: the human mind. The professor walked slowly across the room, his steps echoing against the floor. His sharp eyes moved from one alien to another. "Do not fear our teeth, our muscles, or our speed," he said in a low voice. "Fear the way we think. Fear the human mind." He tapped the screen again and images appeared. At first, the aliens saw simple things: a stone tied to a stick, a piece of sharpened bone. "This was our beginning," the professor said. "We had no claws, no fangs, no armor. So we made them." The screen changed again, this time showing fire, spears, and bows. "Other animals fight with what nature gave them. We fight with what we create." The students shifted in their seats. They had seen tools before, but never with such deadly purpose. The professor's voice grew heavier. "But tools were only the start. We built ships to cross oceans. We made machines to fly through the sky. And when this world tried to stop us with storms, earthquakes, and volcanoes, we studied them. And survived." Kara whispered to herself. "They turned weakness into strength." The professor looked directly at her, as if he heard her words. "Yes, that is what the human mind does. We take fear and we turn it into knowledge. We take suffering and we turn it into power." The screen flashed again, showing images of humans at war. Lines of soldiers marched across muddy fields, their banners flying. Tanks rolled through ruined cities. Planes dropped fire from the sky. The students gasped. "War," the professor said. "No other species has fought as many as we have. We do not seek war because we are cruel. We seek it because our minds never stop asking, how do we win? And when one war ends, we invent better ways to fight the next." Reki trembled. "You destroy each other. And yet you survive?" The professor nodded. "Yes, even in destruction, the mind creates. Every war has given us knowledge. Medicine, machines, new ideas. The human mind does not rest. Even when we bleed, we learn." The students looked horrified. On their worlds, war was rare, a shameful thing. On Earth, it was a teacher. The professor pressed another button. The image changed again. Now the students saw something different. Rockets rising into the sky, flames pouring beneath them. The alien students leaned forward, their eyes wide. "And then," the professor said softly, "we left our death world." The rockets pierced the clouds, carrying humans into the blackness of space. The aliens could not look away. "You saw the jungle yesterday. You saw the lion, the snake, the ants. That was only Earth's test. Most species would have stayed trapped here, too afraid to move beyond. But the human mind is not satisfied with survival. It seeks more. It seeks everything." The images shifted again. Humans walking on the moon, building space stations, sending machines to other planets. The aliens' mouths opened in disbelief. Lear whispered, "They escaped their own prison." The professor turned off the screen. The room fell into silence again. His eyes burned with a quiet fire. "And now we walk among the stars while still carrying the lessons of our death world. We are not the strongest species in the galaxy, but our minds make us the most dangerous." The students felt their stomachs twist. They realized something terrifying. Humans did not just survive their world. They conquered it. And if they could conquer Earth, the galaxy's death world, then what else could they conquer? The professor leaned closer, his voice dropping so low it felt like a secret. "The question is not what humans can do. The question is, what will they decide to do?" The air in the classroom grew heavy. The aliens' hearts pounded. Kara looked around at her classmates. Their faces were pale, their hands shaking. She thought of the ants fighting their endless wars, the lion with its deadly teeth, the poison in the plants. But none of those things frightened her now. What truly scared her was the human smile, the calm, steady confidence of a creature that had already faced the worst planet in the galaxy and won. The professor stepped back and folded his hands behind his back. "Tomorrow," he said, "you will learn about humans beyond Earth. You will see what happens when Deathworld's children step into the galaxy. The aliens did not speak. They could not. The storm outside had cleared, but the students felt as though lightning still lived inside the room. They understood now. The human body was dangerous because it refused to die, but the human mind was dangerous because it refused to stop, and that, more than anything else, made Earth's children a threat to every world in the stars. The alien students sat in silence as the professor's words echoed in their minds. The human body was a weapon of survival. The human mind was a weapon of creation and destruction. They already feared these strange beings, but the next lesson was far worse. Today, the professor said, his voice calm but heavy, you will learn what happens when humans leave their death world and meet the galaxy. The screen behind him flickered on. At first, the aliens saw stars, peaceful, endless stars. But then ships appeared, metal machines cutting through the dark. The aliens recognized them as early human vessels, fragile compared to the massive war cruisers of advanced races. These ships, the professor explained, were weak. Thin walls, limited weapons, slow engines. By galactic standards, they should have been destroyed easily. And yet, they were not. The image changed to show a human ship surrounded by enemy vessels. It was smaller, slower, hopelessly outnumbered. The alien students held their breath, certain the humans would be crushed. But the tiny ship did not flee. Instead, it dove straight at the largest enemy, slipping through weapons fire, vanishing into blind spots and striking where no one expected. Within minutes, the larger ship burned and the rest scattered. This is how humans fight, the professor said. Not with strength, but with courage, strategy, and endless will. Where others retreat, we advance. Where others surrender, we plan. When the odds are against us, that is when we are at our most dangerous. Reki's hands trembled. That small ship destroyed something 10 times its size. Yes, the professor said. And not once. Many times. The students leaned closer, their fear mixing with fascination. Do you know why we are called hunters of the stars? The professor asked. He did not wait for their answer. Because humans chase danger. Where others see death, we see challenge. Where others see hopelessness, we see opportunity. The screen now showed images of human explorers stepping onto alien worlds. They wore simple suits, their faces uncovered, their eyes sharp. They climbed mountains taller than any city, crossed deserts where no other species dared to walk, and even swam through oceans filled with unknown predators. Humans do not fear the unknown, the professor said. We seek it, Kara whispered, her voice shaking. But why? Why not stay safe? The professor turned to her. His expression was almost gentle. Because safety is not life. To a human, life is found in risk, in reaching beyond what seems possible. That is why we left Earth and why we walk among the stars now. The screen changed again. Now it showed humans fighting alongside other alien races in wars that spread across entire sectors. The aliens in the classroom recognized the enemies. Huge reptilian warriors, insectoid hives, machine armies. Yet in every battle, humans were there, outnumbered, outgunned, and still refusing to fall. In the galaxy, the professor said, we found species stronger than us, faster than us, smarter than us. But none of them were ready for Deathworld's children. We adapt, we learn. We do not quit. That is why we win. The students stared at the images, humans charging through fire, carrying wounded allies on their backs, standing on battlefields where no one else could survive. The professor's voice cut through the silence. When a human enters a fight, they are not just fighting for themselves. They fight for each other, for their families, for their home. That is the strength no weapon can defeat. Lear swallowed hard. If humans fight like this, then who can stop them? The professor paused. His eyes darkened. That is the question every race must ask. Because once humans set their eyes on something, they will keep going until they succeed. That is the mind of the hunter. The room felt smaller, as if the walls were closing in. The alien students looked at one another, their fear growing. They had always heard whispers that Earth was dangerous. But now they understood. It was not just the planet. It was the people. The professor switched off the screen. Darkness filled the room. His voice was soft but sharp as a blade. You think we are dangerous because of our planet? You are wrong. We are dangerous because we carry Earth with us everywhere we go. No matter where we travel, we bring Deathworld with us. The students shivered. The silence stretched until finally, Kara asked the question none of them wanted to speak. If humans already left their death world, she whispered, what will they do next? The professor did not smile this time. His face was hard, his tone colder than before. Anything they want. The words struck the students like lightning. The future of the galaxy suddenly felt uncertain. Because if Deathworld's hunters chose to rise higher, no wall, no army, and no empire could stand in their way. The alien students thought they had already seen the worst of humanity. They had witnessed the power of the human body, the endless fire of the human mind, and the fearless way humans entered the stars. Yet the next lesson was the most unsettling of all. That morning, their guide led them to a large open field outside the city. The ground was scarred with lines, circles, and targets. Weapons hung on racks and soldiers moved in formation. The students felt uneasy. This was not a classroom. This was a place of training. What are we doing here? Lear asked nervously. The guide's smile was thin. You are here to see what fear means to a human. The aliens exchanged glances. Fear was universal. Every species felt it. But the way humans spoke of it made it sound different. The soldiers in the field began their drills. They ran with heavy packs, climbed tall walls, crawled under wires, and fired weapons at distant targets. Their movements were fast, rough, and merciless. Sweat poured from their bodies, but none stopped. They look exhausted, Reki whispered. The guide nodded. Yes, but exhaustion is not an enemy to humans. It is a challenge, and fear is the same. The students frowned, not understanding. On their own worlds, fear was something to avoid. It was weakness, a sign to retreat, but here it seemed to be fuel. Then something unexpected happened. One of the soldiers stepped forward and called out to the group of students. Who among you dares to challenge me? The aliens froze. Surely it was a joke. They were students, not fighters. But the soldier's eyes burned with determination. He meant every word. Slowly, one alien stood. It was Joro, a tall, proud student with a body covered in armored scales. On his planet, he was considered strong. He wanted to prove that humans were not invincible. I accept, Joro said. His classmates gasped. The soldier smiled and stepped into the ring. The others formed a circle. The guide's eyes gleamed with quiet interest. Watch carefully, he told the students. You are about to learn the truth. The fight began. Joro charged, his movements fast, his strength undeniable. He struck hard, but the human dodged, weaving away like a shadow. The soldier's strikes were not as heavy, but they were precise, aimed at weak points, controlled with perfect timing. The fight dragged on. Joro's attacks grew slower. His breathing grew harsh. But the human kept moving, his eyes calm, his face steady. How is this possible? Kara whispered. Joro is stronger, the guide answered, his voice low. Strength is nothing if the mind breaks, and fear always breaks the strong. At last, Joro stumbled, falling to one knee. The human stopped, his hand reaching out. But it was not a hand of victory. It was a hand of friendship. You fought well, the soldier said, breathing hard but still smiling. But you feared losing. That is why you lost. Humans fear too, but we do not let it stop us. We use it. The alien students were silent. Joro lowered his head, ashamed but wiser. He understood the lesson now, even in defeat. The guide spoke again. Do you see it? Fear does not control us. We control fear. That is why we are dangerous. Because when others run from fear, humans run into it. The words sank deep into the students' minds. They remembered the ants that never stopped fighting, the lion's roar, the poisonous plants, the storms. Earth itself was a teacher of fear, and its children had learned the final lesson. Fear was not an enemy. It was a weapon. The group left the field in silence. The sky above was gray, thunder rolling in the distance. Kara walked slower than the others, her thoughts heavy. Finally, she whispered almost to herself, if humans are not afraid of fear itself, then what can stop them? The guide heard her. His eyes turned to the horizon where dark clouds gathered. His voice was quiet, but it carried across the group. Nothing. That is why the galaxy should be careful. A species that turns fear into strength is a species that cannot be defeated. Lightning cracked across the sky, as if Earth itself agreed. The students shivered not from the storm, but from the truth they had just learned. The alien students had seen much during their stay on Earth. They had walked through deadly forests where poison dripped from leaves and predators prowled in silence. They had studied the human body and learned how it refused to surrender. They had discovered the human mind, a weapon sharper than any blade. They had watched humans in battle, fearless and unbroken, turning fear itself into strength. Now their time on Earth was ending. But before they left, the professor gathered them one last time. They sat in the grand hall silent, waiting for his words. Outside, the sky burned with the red light of sunset, casting long shadows across the floor. The professor stood at the front, his old face carved with lines of wisdom and scars of survival. "You came here," he said, his voice deep and steady, "to study the Deathworld and its children. You wanted to learn why Earth is feared. Now you have seen it with your own eyes." The students exchanged nervous glances. They remembered the lion's golden eyes, the snake's fangs, the endless wars of ants and the storm that drenched the city streets. But above all, they remembered the humans, their unbreakable bodies, their restless minds, their refusal to run from danger. The professor raised a hand. "But you have not yet learned the final lesson, the most important truth about humanity." The hall grew so quiet that even the sound of their breathing seemed too loud. He pressed a button, and the wall lit up with images once more. The students saw humans fighting in wars, yes, but also humans building, teaching, exploring. They saw them share food with strangers, risk their lives for friends, and even show mercy to enemies. "This," the professor said, his eyes fierce, "is the final lesson. Humans are not dangerous only because of their strength or their minds. We are dangerous because of our hearts." The students leaned forward, confused. "Hearts? What did that mean?" The professor continued. "The same heart that drives us into battle also drives us to protect. The same courage that makes us face fear makes us sacrifice for others. Humans will bleed, fight, and even die, not just for themselves, but for those they love, for those they call family, for those they call friends." The images shifted again. Now the aliens saw humans carrying wounded comrades from battlefields, standing in front of weaker allies to shield them, reaching out their hands even to enemies. "Do you understand?" the professor asked. "We do not only fight because we must survive. We fight because we choose to stand for something greater than ourselves. That is what makes us unstoppable." The students sat frozen. On their world, survival was the highest goal. But here humans fought for ideals, for hope, for the future. That was not weakness. That was power unlike anything else. Reki's voice shook as he whispered, "If humans fight not only for themselves, then there is no end to what they can achieve." The professor nodded slowly. "Exactly. That is why Earth is the death world, not because it kills life, but because it forged a species that never stops, never surrenders, and never fights alone." Kara felt her chest tighten. She remembered the guide's words on the first day, "Welcome to Earth if you survive the first week." Now she understood. It had never been about surviving Earth. It had been about surviving the truth of its children. The professor's voice grew heavier. "You will return to your worlds now. You will tell your people what you have seen. Some will laugh. Some will refuse to believe. But remember this. If humanity ever decides to rise higher, if we ever unite fully, then nothing in the galaxy will stop us." The images faded. The wall went dark. The professor stood tall in the silence. The students did not move. They felt the weight of his words pressing down on them. They knew they would carry this truth forever. At last, the professor gave a thin smile. "That is the final lesson. Fear us if you must. Respect us if you are wise, but never forget us, because Deathworld's children do not disappear. We endure, we grow, and when the galaxy least expects it, we rise." The hall erupted in silence so deep it felt endless. The students stared, their hearts racing, their minds burning with questions and fears. Outside, the sun slipped below the horizon, and night claimed the sky. Stars began to appear cold and distant, but to the alien students, each star now carried a new meaning. Because somewhere among them humans were already walking, and they knew with a certainty that chilled their bones that nothing would ever be the same again.